Cloud is difficult to learn. Cloud is only for techies. Cloud certifications take a long time to do. No, no, and no again. Cloud is easy to learn, and you can do some of the beginner cloud certifications in AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud in less than 2 weeks. How do I know? I'm Ranga Karnam. I'm 10x certified in AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud as well. Our courses are helping thousands of learners do their cloud certifications in AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. In this series of videos, we'll be focusing on cloud fundamentals. Once you understand the fundamentals of cloud, you will see that learning AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud becomes really, really easy. Are you ready to make learning cloud easy? Let's get started. In this video, let's talk about NoSQL databases. NoSQL databases emerged as an alternative for the relational databases. NoSQL stands for not only SQL. So it's basically anything which is not SQL, right? So it's like anything which does not use just SQL, right? So that's basically what is a NoSQL database. There is no single definition for it. As usual, when it comes to most of the things related to IT, there is no single definition, right? So NoSQL kind of is a vaguely defined term, and there are a wide variety of databases that fit into this particular term, right? So we talk about document databases, key value databases, graph databases, column family databases, in-memory databases, and also there are a variety of such databases in each of the cloud platforms, AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. In this specific video, let's get a high-level overview of why we need NoSQL databases, how they are different from typical relational databases. We'll look at high-level what are the different types of NoSQL databases. We'll look at examples for each one of them. And we'll also see how you can implement different NoSQL databases in different cloud platforms. Are you excited about it? Let's get started. So why this evolution towards NoSQL databases? Why are there NoSQL databases today, right? One reason is we already saw that in the last video about relational databases, right? So we talked about the fact that relational databases are difficult to scale for reads. There are limits to how much a relational database can grow up to. Let's say I would want to have multiple copies of the database, and I would want to be able to write to different copies at the same time. Then those kind of things are not really very well supported by traditional relational databases. So that's one reason, right? So horizontal scalability. You'd want to be able to horizontally scale your database, and you also want unlimited scaling, right? Whenever we're talking about today's world of social media, like Twitter or Facebook, they store huge volumes of data, petabytes, exabytes of data. So the traditional databases approaches there are not sufficient. These databases need huge scale. The next important thing is the need for very, very, very fast response times, right? These days, we would want really, really quick millisecond kind of responses. So even though we are storing huge volumes of data, let's say in petabytes, you'd want responses coming back for users in milliseconds. That's second thing that we would need, which are not provided by our traditional relational databases. So what these databases, the NoSQL databases, do is they trade off something called consistency. So you have consistency, and some of these NoSQL databases also don't provide SQL features. So they don't give you strong consistency. Some of them don't give you SQL facilities, but what they really give you is very high scalability. So they provide you with very high scalability, and they provide you with millisecond responses even at huge scale. So whenever we are talking about traditional databases, they are not able to provide you this kind of scalability. And that's the reason why we go for NoSQL databases, which can provide you with this kind of scalability with really good performance. But what you're really giving up is the SQL features. So some of these NoSQL databases will not support SQL. You will see that some of them, a few of them here and there would support SQL, but most of them don't. And you're also sacrificing consistency to an extent. Now, you might be wondering, what is consistency, right? If I have 4 copies of a database, and let's say I'm updating this copy, right? There would be some time lag before the change is propagated out to the other copies of the database. And therefore, when you are reading data from there, there would be some amount of stale data that you would get. So if I'm making an update here now, let's say I'm updating now, then probably it would take about 1 minute, or actually typically it will not be 1 minute, it would be a few seconds typically. So it would be a few seconds before the data, the change is propagated to other copies. And if somebody is reading data from these databases in the intermediate period, then they would get stale data, they would get old data. So what these databases provide is something called eventual consistency. So it's basically, if you make a change to one of these copies, the change will eventually, within a few seconds, propagate to other instances. So that's one of the negative, but this is not really a big negative when it comes to social media, for example, right? So if I'm posting a tweet and the tweet is not distributed to all the databases in this second when I'm posting it, it's not such a big deal. A few seconds do not really matter in the case of a Facebook post or a LinkedIn post or a Twitter thing or a YouTube video post, right? So in these kind of situations, what we want is high scale. We would really want to focus on scalability and not really worry about a millisecond lag in consistency. So these are the traditional use cases where you would go for NoSQL databases, where you would need very high scalability and you are okay with little bit of lag in terms of consistency. Right now, when you go to the details of these NoSQL databases, there are different types of NoSQL databases: document database, key value database, graph databases, column family databases, and in-memory databases. Right. So another important factor when it comes to traditional databases is traditional databases are very restrictive in terms of structure. You need to define a table, you need to define relationships. So if I would want to store order details, the customer details, the details of the product, you need to store data in 3 different tables, right? So you'd have relationship, foreign key, and all those kind of things. However, when it comes to NoSQL databases, most of them are flexible with respect to structure. So when I actually look at an example of NoSQL database, this is a document database example, right? So what we are trying to store in here is a simple JSON document. And you can see that the entire thing is defined as a JSON structure. The only thing which is mandatory in this specific structure is the ID, right? The customer ID which is present in here is the mandatory. All the other ones are flexible. So if I have a table created, then one row in that table might have first name, the other one might not have first name at all, right? So each of these columns which are present is flexible, and you can also see that all the data is present in here. So typically, if you go to relational database, you would have a separate address table, you would have a separate social profiles table, and things like that. However, we are very, very flexible with respect to structure when it comes to NoSQL database. What we are doing in here is we are storing all the details in just one document. And whenever you want to change something in here, you just go, let's say I would want to change the address or change the first name or change the social profile related to Twitter, I will change the same document. So this is how the flexibility of NoSQL databases is important. So when you would want to, let's say, store customer profile and things like that, and these kind of things can change over a period of time very, very drastically, then the rigidity of the relational database structure might be a little bit of a pain. And that's one of the situations when you'd go for a document database. So document databases help you to store data in JSON structure, typically, right? So you can store data in XML structure and others as well. But typically, most of the document databases allow you to store data in JSON structure. And they also allow you to query on the other columns, not just the ID column, but you can also create indexes on the other columns and you can query on them as well. The popular document database in the cloud, the most popular one is DynamoDB. So DynamoDB, I would say, has captured a huge amount of market. So this is the most popular one in the cloud. And in Azure, you'd see that almost all the Azure databases are named as Cosmos DB because these are part of a service called Cosmos DB. In Cosmos DB, there is something called MongoDB API. Right? The MongoDB API is something you'd make use of if you want to create a document database in Azure. And in Google Cloud, the document database is called Firestore. Earlier, this was called Datastore. So if you want to create a document database, you want to be able to store documents, update them, and this would provide you with unlimited scale. And you don't really need to worry about like provisioning storage and things like that. All these document databases are serverless in nature. So as you keep adding documents, the storage would automatically grow. You do not need to worry about how the storage is managed and all that stuff. All that you need to worry about is putting your documents in and retrieving it back, right? So that's basically the document database, where you have complex things to store and you would want to be able to retrieve data in a flexible way based on multiple columns. That's when you go for document. Sometimes you just need a key value based store, right? So you don't want to retrieve the data back based on the elements which are present in the document. You might just say, I would want to store values based on key, and I would want to retrieve the value based on the key. So the only operations that would be supported by the key value databases are storing a value by key and retrieving the value by the key. And DynamoDB actually is this one which you can make use of if you want to create a key value database in AWS. The corresponding thing in Azure is something called a table API. So it's Cosmos DB table API, which can be used to create a key value store in Azure. In GCP, I would think you can either use Firestore, or you can also use BigQuery in certain, actually it's Bigtable. So either use Bigtable as the key value database based on your specific use case. Now, the next type of document databases are the graph databases, right? Sometimes relationships, you'd want to store relationships between people. Let's say I'm creating a social media application, right? So like there is a person A, he's a friend of B, and there's a person C who's one. So you'd want to be able to understand the relationship between different things. You'd want to identify fraud transactions. You'd want to identify the relationship between different transactions and identify frauds, right? These are the places where you'd go for graphs. And graph databases are very, very useful for social media apps, for fraud detection and things like that. And in AWS, the graph database is Amazon Neptune. And in Cosmos DB or in Azure, the API which you can make use of is Gremlin API. So the Gremlin API provides you with graph database features. In my research, I was not actually able to locate a graph database in GCP. Maybe you'd want to look that up. Now that we talked about document, key value, and graph databases, let's move to column family databases. There might be situations where you would want to store a number of column families within the same row. So within the same row, so inside the single row, I want to store data related to multiple things. Maybe I would want to store the entire stock price history over a period of time. So this might be price, this might be the date, right? So yesterday, today, day before yesterday, it's date. So and the value. And this might be also text action, like what are the actions which are performed with respect to that stock, and what are the actions which are performed by owners of the stock, right? So sell, buy, and all those things, right? So let's say in a single row, I would want to store a lot of complex details related to a specific item. In those kind of situations, you can go for something which is called a column family database. Column family databases are typically used when you have a lot of streaming data which is coming in. Let's say I have an IoT streams, or I would want to perform real-time analysis on data which is coming in inside streams, or I have large operational workloads which are sending huge streams of data. So things like transaction histories, stock prices. If you have huge volumes of data which is coming in and I would want to be able to immediately query on them, those are the kind of situations when you'd go for column family databases. And the column family database in Azure is Azure Cosmos DB Cassandra API. So Cassandra API, Cassandra is one of the popular column family databases. And in Google Cloud, the corresponding database is Cloud Bigtable. I was not able to directly find a managed service which is related to column family in AWS. Maybe you'd be able to run Cassandra in AWS on your own, or maybe there is a managed service for Cassandra in there. So the fourth type of NoSQL database that we are talking about is the column family database. And sometimes you would need very, very fast response. All these four categories typically provide you with millisecond responses. Sometimes you might want microsecond responses, really, really quick responses. And in those kind of situations, you cannot go to a disk and come back. So talking from a disk is very, very slow. And that's where you would go and store the data directly in the RAM. directly in the in-memory. So that's where you go for these in-memory databases. These in-memory databases are also called caches. Typically, all the in-memory databases are either based on Redis or memcached. So these are the two most popular in-memory databases, and you'd see that almost all the cloud providers provide a service around these two services. So if you want to store session details, or if you want to store leaderboards, right, these kind of things change very, very fast, and these are displayed on almost all web pages, so you'd want to be able to retrieve the details back in microseconds. And that's the reason why you'd go for in-memory databases. If you look at AWS provides you with a service called Elasticache. So Elasticache is the managed in-memory database in AWS. In Google Cloud, it's called Cloud Memory Store. And do you want to guess what it's called in Azure? In Azure, it's called Azure Cache. So yeah, that's basically the most important types of NoSQL databases in the cloud, right? We talked about the fact that there are a few issues with relational databases. Like relational databases have issues with scale and providing very, very fast responses when you have huge volumes of data. That's where, when it comes to NoSQL databases, we'll typically sacrifice consistency and we get a little bit of flexibility as an addition as well. Typically, relational databases are very, very strict when it comes to how you store the data, the table structure, the table relationships, and things like that. And that's one of the things which NoSQL databases are a little bit more flexible with. Only the ID is mandatory in most of the times. The rest of the structure of how you store the document and everything else is typically flexible. And we saw that there are a variety of NoSQL databases: document databases, key value databases, graph databases, column family databases, and in-memory databases. And we saw examples of each of these databases in different cloud platforms. I'm sure you had a great time watching this video. Do not keep it to yourself. Tell your friends and tell YouTube as well. How do you do that? Like, share, and subscribe. If you're looking to get cloud certified, check out our cloud certification courses in AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. And do not forget to check out the other videos in this series of videos on cloud fundamentals. If there is a cloud topic that you're feeling it's very, very difficult to understand, do post it in the comments and we will make it simple for you. I'm sure you had a great time watching this video, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Until then, here's bye from Ranga at In 28 Minutes. See you soon.